Okay, it looks like we have another physics problem here with a quadratic equation. Talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Looks like it's 180.4 feet tall. An object is thrown into the air with an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. Okay, so you can see they actually gave you a lot of the information right here. They told you that they gave you the velocity and plugged it into the right location. They gave you the height of the tower, plugged it in right here. The only thing, looks like you're needing to find the time at which the object will reach a height of 200 feet. So you know your height is 200 feet, so you're going to plug the 200 into the h spot and then solve for t. Now, because this is a quadratic equation, that means you could solve by factoring, you could solve using the quadratic equation, or you could solve by completing the square. I'm going to solve by completing the square because I think that is going to be a pretty quick method. So first I'm going to start by rewriting the equation. 200 is equal to negative 16t squared plus 80t plus 180.4. Bringing the 200 over here. Let me just do that. I'm going to bring the 200 right over here, okay? So in doing that, I'm going to get an equation that says 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 80t is equal to, or minus 19.6. Now I already told you I'm going to solve by completing the square. When I'm solving by completing the square, basically what I'm doing is I'm forcing these first two terms in my trinomial into being a perfect square. That means I have to take care of the 19.6. He's a problem child. So we're going to put him off to the side. At the same time that we're doing that, I'm going to factor a negative 16 because negative 16 can be factored out of both of these. So if I take negative 16 out of this, that leaves me with t squared. And by the way, 80 divided by negative 16 is positive 5. So, I'm sorry, negative 5. So I've got negative 5t here. And then the negative 19.6 is just going to have to come all the way back here. Notice I didn't factor a negative 16 out of that one either because he's just going to sit in the back of the equation resting while we're working with creating a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so now this negative 16 just kind of comes tagging along. Now what we need to do is figure out what goes right in here that's going to create a perfect square trinomial that we can factor. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to start by cutting this middle term in half. This negative 5 gets cut in half, all right? And then that is what, when this term right here is squared, that's the value that will create that perfect square trinomial. So that's why I'm putting a 25/4 up here. Do you see that? And then I need this squared because now this right here is the factored form. This binomial is the factored form of this perfect square trinomial that we have right up here. Okay? Now, the problem is I just got done adding what looks like 25/4, but in reality, I added a whole lot more than 25/4. I added 25/4 times negative 16. If you multiply that on your calculator or in your head, which you should be able to do because you can see the 4 goes into negative 16, you should see that that is equal to negative 100. So technically, by writing the 25/4 here, what I actually added was negative 100. So to compensate for that, I'm going to have to come over here and add positive 100. I hope that makes sense to all of you. So when I add 100 and negative 19.6 together, simplifying that, I get plus 80.4. Okay? Now, I'm solving for t, remember? Because it says find the time. So the rest is going to actually go pretty quickly. We can bring the 80.4 over here. So we get negative 80.4 is equal to negative 16 times t minus 5 halves squared. Divide both sides by negative 16. Divide both sides by negative 16. And that will leave us with, I'm just going to write this over here, that will, when we take 80.4 divided by negative 16, that gave me 5.025. So 5.025 is equal to t minus 5/2 squared. Now I'm ready to take the square root of both sides. So I take the square root of this, take the square root of this. This is going to be plus or minus, remember? Okay? So I get 2.24 equals t minus 5/2. Okay? Now I need to, and this is plus or minus still, so now to finish this out, I get t equals, and then I'm bringing this negative 5/2 over, which is 2.5. So now I have 2.5 plus or minus 2.24. Make sense? So we just need to finish doing the calculations. You should end up with two answers. Your two answers should be 4.74 and 0.26 seconds. Now that should make perfect sense, because if you've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa here, right? Okay, it's leaning quite a lot here. You're standing up here. It says find the time at which the object will reach a height of 200 feet. So the Leaning Tower of Pisa is 180.4 feet, right? So 180 feet here, and then it's going to go up, and then it's going to come down. Up here is going to be, the maximum height is going to be, well, we don't know what the maximum height is going to be, but there's going to be two times at which the height is 200 feet, maybe here and here. So the first time, this 0.26 seconds is right here. The 4.74 seconds is when it's traveled up to its maximum, and then it's coming back down, and it reaches a height of 200 again. So I hope you can see how that works out practically in physics.